You there, wonderful viewer. Would you like to read a book about a science fantasy adventure in the spirit of Star Wars before Rian Johnson ruined everything? And feel free to check out Genesis Saga: A Call to Aid. Links in the description. Now, Tribal Hunter is a Metroidvania-style platformer that has some very fun and easy combat that's highly enjoyable, but its main selling point is actually a weight and inflation mechanic that creates a risk and reward factor in regards to the gameplay, as it not only makes it harder to perform platforming challenges, but also is a trade-off for speed versus brute strength. And while the game is obvious furry bait, this mechanic is actually well realized and not just a source of so-called eye candy, to say the least. Cult of the Lamb is a title that I will be doing a full review on. Essentially, it's broken between roguelike dungeon crawling and animal-style crossing cult management, and in all honesty, the cult management is very addictive and the best part of the game, thanks to how the cults create fantastic emergent stories through their personalities, requests, and actions. But granted, managing the cult can get rather tedious due to the micromanagement required, but it still works really well in tandem with the dungeon crawling included, which is also fun. Senran Kagura Shinovi Versus was the first one I've really tried out, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this for both obvious and not so obvious reasons. The gameplay is fast, fun hack and slash affair that actually has some really great depth, and the edgy content, while it may put some people off, it's actually more comedic than anything else, and really does add a lot to the overall fun of the experience, which is detracted by the missions in that they can drag on, thanks to how repetitive gameplay has the potential to become. Now this right here is a title I do have some nostalgia for. Kane and Lynch, Dead Men. I enjoyed this back when I rented it from a video shop, and I gotta say, time has both been kind and not so kind to it. Kane and Lynch are actually a likable double team as characters, and they do play off of one another really well. And the gritty approach to the story and gameplay does lead to some really nice small touches. It's just a shame though that the game is really brought down by some pretty bad jank, even for the time that it came out in. It can really drag things down very quickly. Now, Resident Evil Revelations is something I've been playing on my Switch lately, and I've been loving it. I've enjoyed thoroughly revisiting it. Mainly because it plays like a more modern Resident Evil 4 in terms of the gameplay, and the story does feel quite evocative of earlier Resident Evil, though it is brought down by its origins on the 3DS, thanks to some environments that are massive but empty, and the texture work, yeah, that can be really hit or miss in just about every given environment that you explore, or on the character models as well. I cannot lie about this, I actually like Brutal Doom 64 more than Doom 64, but that doesn't mean I did not enjoy this, okay? This thing still has all the fun and charm of the early days of the FPS genre. Granted, I did find the music to be not as great as the original ones, but it was still very nice in how it created a nice horror-fueled atmosphere. And a nice selling point that I don't see a lot of people just pointing out blatantly is that this game is basically the OG Doom 3, so if Doom 3 was too Half-Life for you, dude, this is what you need to play. Now, this is a title I've already reviewed, Baldurs Gate 3, but for those who haven't seen that review, dude, you need to play this game right now. It's got fun tactical gameplay, and the storytelling is incredibly well done. It's very immersive, as well as a well-realized adaptation of the 5th edition rule set that I'm sure actual D&D players are going to go gaga over. But with that being said, the gameplay is identical to Original Sin 2, so it's basically Divinity Original Sin 2.5, and its performance currently in early access makes it very hit or miss.
Witness the might of the blade.
Nightmare of Decay is something I do recommend if you're looking for something to play when Halloween comes around. It's got scary, resource-driven survival horror that's very much in the action mode via FPS-style gameplay, but in terms of aesthetics, it's essentially 9/10 Resident Evil with 1/10 Silent Hill, and even a few unofficial cameos by some characters from one of those franchises. Granted, some of the encounters can feel cheap, but it's all down to resource management more than anything, but that doesn't stop some encounters just from being a little too, well, cheap. Alien's Fireteam Elite is essentially the Alien take on Left 4 Dead, but it does more than enough to justify its existence and set itself apart, mainly by the gameplay actually having a nice arcadey feel to how things play out. And what's more is there's also the challenge card system, which adds a great deal of variety and replayability as you grind out the missions in the game's campaigns again and again, which is something you unfortunately need to do, as it's the only way to upgrade your classes and also get the resources you need to buy the cosmetics that aren't part of the very few bundles this game has attached to it as DLC. Quite possibly one of the greatest games to have ever been made in recent memory. Lawnmowing Simulator is one of the most relaxing yet addictive gaming experiences I've had in ages. More than anything, this game truly deserves the title of 2021's Game of the Year. Granted though, it can be a little pedantic in the sense that you have to make sure you get every single bit of grass in order to meet your quota to pass the mission, which can get annoying, but that aside, I only have one other complaint. Where is the sequel? I want sequel. I want a sequel.